Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Tonight, reciters are dear Pavni will be reciting in Sanskrit and dear Enakshi will be reciting in English. So, Pavni, whenever you're ready, can you please start with invocation? Thank you. Today there are less devotees. Sorry about that. They will be joining soon. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
The text not 16 to 30.
Yes, it is chapter 14, verses 16 to 30.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Vasudevaya. Vairvati Karasparsho Rajasa Vishrajam Sama Asvarshanti Jalada Bibhatsameva Sarvata. The wind blows violently, blasting dust everywhere and creating darkness. Clouds are raining everywhere with bloody disasters. Suryam hata prabham pasya grahamardam mitho divi sasankule bhuta gane jvalita evarodashi. The rays of sun are declining, and the stars appear to be fighting amongst themselves. Confused living entities appear to ablaze and weeping. Nadyonadaschakru beta saramsi cha manamsi cha najalatyagniragena kaloyam kim vidhasyata. Rivers, tributaries, ponds, reservoirs, and the mind are all perturbed. Butter no longer ignites fire. What is this extraordinary time? What is going to happen? Nape banti stanam vatsa naduyanti chamatara rudantya shrumukha gavo narashyantya shabhavraje. The calves do not suck the teats of the cows, nor do the cows give milk. They are standing, crying, tears in their eyes, and the bulls take no pleasure in the pasturing grounds. Devatani rudanti va.
And here.
Hare Krishna. Enakshi Pavni, we can't hear you. Hare Krishna. Jyoti Mataji, I think they left. They will join soon again.
Yes, Mataji. Maybe we could recite. We could keep recitations going.
Yeah, okay. Kishangi Mataji, would you like to do Sanskrit, please? Hare Krishna, Kishangi Mataji.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Mom. We'll speak to you soon.
All right, bye. Okay, I can do it here. Number 20.
Yes,
20,
Mataji.
yes, please.
Daivatani sudanti va svidanti uchalanti cha imajan padakramam purya dhyana kasha sharamaha bhustasya niranandaha ki agata dashyanti naha.
Jyoti Mataji, please.
The deities seem to be crying in the temple, lamenting and perspiring. They seem about to leave. All the cities, villages, towns, gardens, mines, and hermitages are now devoid of beauty and bereft of all happiness. I do not know what sort of calamities are now waiting us.
Next 21. Manete mata pate nunam bhagavata padite anya purusha shibir hina bhurhata sobhagaha.
I think that all these earthly disturbances indicate some greater loss to the good fortune of the world. The world was fortunate to have been marked with the footprints of the lotus feet of the Lord. These signs indicate that this will no longer be.
Iti chintayata tasya.
Mataji,
Sorry.
no, Krishangi Mataji, you can carry on with this, and next Nakshi and Pavni have joined Mataji.
Okay.
Thank you.
Iti chintayasta tasya. Dustaristena chetasa. Rajana patya gamat brahma. Yadu puraya kapi dvajaha.
O Brahmana Sonaka, when Maharaj Yudhishthira, observing the inauspicious signs on the earth at that time, was thus thinking to himself, Arjuna came back from the city of the Yadus Dwarka.
And Nakshi, please, and Pavni, please.
Sampadayo nipatitam ayatha purvamaturam adho vadanamabhindun srijantam nayanabhyajo. When he bowed at his feet, the king saw that the dejection was unprecedented. His head was down, and tears glided from his lotus eyes. Vilokya dvigna hridayo vichayam anujam kripa prachati smasuran madhye samsmaran naraderitam. Seeing Arjuna pale due to heartfelt anxieties, the king, remembering the indications of the sage Narada, questioned him in the midst of friends. Yudhishthira uvacha kachidanarthapuryamna swajana sukhamasate madhuboja dasharara Satvatanda Vishnaya. Maharaj Yudhishthira said, My dear brother, please tell me whether our family and relatives, such as Madhu, Bhoja, Dashara, Ara, Satvata, Andhaka, and the members of the Yadu family are all passing their days in happiness. Shuro Mata Mahakachit Swashtaste Vatamarisha Matula Sanuja Kachit Kusharyana Kadundubi. Is my respectful grandfather Surushena in a happy mood? And are my maternal uncle Vasudeva and his younger brothers doing all well?
Hare Krishna, I think the
Krishna.
girls are stuck.
Yeah, I think they are both. I can see their name, but
Yeah.
And Nakshi, Pavni. Okay, Jyoti Mataji, let's do like that only. Kishangi Mataji, can you carry on, please?
Are
Okay.
we on 27?
27, yeah.
Yes.
Sapta sutarastat patanyo matulyanah sadmajaha asate sasuna shahat kshemam devaki parmokha swamayam.
His 7 wives, headed by Devaki, are all sisters. Are they and their sons and daughters-in-law all happy?
Take text 28. Are they back? No. Kati rajuko jivati asat putrosya chanujah didikha sasuta kruturo jayanta gada sarannaha asate kushalam kachit yecha satrujit adayah kachidaste sukham ramo bhagwan satvatam prabhu.
Our
They are.
Ugrasena, whose son was the mischievous Kamsa and his younger brother still living, are Radhika and his son Kartavarma happy, are Akrura, Jayanta, Gada, Sarana, and Satrujit all happy. How is Balaram, the personality of Godhead and the protector of devotees?
And Nakshi, Pavni, are you there?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, please carry on, please. Thank you.
Sorry, dropping out. Pradyumna sarva vrishninam sukhamaste maharatha gambhira rayo niruddho vardhate bhagavanuta. How is Pradyumna, the great general of Vrishni family? Is he happy? And is Aniruddha, the plenary expansion of the personality of Godhead, faring well? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
I was on mute. Hare
I've
Krishna.
made you host, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So I guess you all can see my screen. Is that screen visible? Can everyone see the? Am I audible? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji, you are audible.
So thank you for the recitation. It was very nice. Yeah, the Sanskrit pronunciation was really good. Thanks for that. Today we will be discussing verse number 30 of chapter 14 of the first.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, we had the same problem as last week again. You're very, very faint. We can hardly hear you.
Yeah, she's very faint.
I think let me try changing the audio settings. Yeah, its input level is full, output is also full. I really don't know what. Is there any difference or it's same?
No difference, same, bro.
What about this?
No, Prabhu. For an IT man, you're having a lot of IT problems regularly, Prabhuji.
It's not that because my all computers are highly secured because of the firewalls of the MasterCard, and that's the reason we keep getting upgraded firmwares, and that's the problem because it's the corporate firmware. Probably that is why the sound is very low. I have registered the ticket with our support, but don't know what's the issue. So you can't really hear me at all, or it's very, very low voice?
Very faint.
Very faint. Okay. So like last time, I can log in from my phone, and if that helps, and then we can mute this part here. I will put the full volume on.
Is this sound okay?
We've got echo though. I think you need to turn the other one off.
It's already, I'm on mute.
Yeah, you got reverberation going on, so you got an echo.
Okay.
I think mute your computer, bro.
What was that?
Mute your computer because you got feedback.
Is this better?
Yes, bro, much better. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we'll start now. So let's start. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhaktinaištati Yam Pravrajeta Manupet Tamapet Kutyam Dvaipayano Virahaka Tarajubhava Putreti Tanmayatayo Taravo Bhinetus Tam Sarva Bhuta Hridayam Munimanatosmi. So we'll chant the verse. Pradyumnah Sarva Vrishninaam Sukhamaste Maharatha Gambhirarayo Niruddho Vardate Bhagavanut. Word by word translation. Pradyumna, a son of Lord Krishna. Sarva, all. Vrishninam, of the members of the Vrishni family. Sukham, happiness. Aste, are in. Maharatha, the great general. Gambhira, deeply. Raya, dexterity. Aniruddha, a grandson of Lord Krishna. Vardhate, flourishing. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Uta, must. How is Pradyumna, the great general of the Vrishni family, is he happy? And is Aniruddha, the plenary expansion of personality of Godhead, faring well? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Pradyumna and Aniruddha are also expansions of the personality of Godhead, and thus they are also Vishnu Tattva. At Dwarka, Lord Vasudeva is engaged in his transcendental pastimes along with his plenary expansions, namely Shankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. And therefore, each and every one of them can be addressed as the personality of Godhead. And it is mentioned in connection with the name Aniruddha. So let's chant our Mangala Charana and then we'll start our discussion. Om Ajnantimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Sa Advaitam Sa Avadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kant Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Itinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshadarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Shri Chaitanyeshwaram Paramatmadam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Janulambita Bhujo Kanakavadahato Sankirtane Pitaro Kamalaitaksho Vishwambharo Dvijabharo Yugadharmapalo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karuna Avatar Yuntah Pravishya Mama Chamimam Prasuttam Sanjeevayatya Akhila Shaktidhara Swadam Anyamshcha Hasta Charana Shravanat Vagadim Pranan Namo Bhagavate Purushaya. So let's stand the verse again. Pradyumnah Sarva Vrishninam Sukham Aste Maharatha Gambhirayo Rayo Niruddho Vardhate Bhagavanut. How is Pradyumna, the great general of the Vrishnid family? Is he happy? And is Aniruddha, the plenary expansion of the personality of Godhead, faring well? So if we see the context for the first canto, the reasoning behind the first canto, the lotus feet of the Lord, which is the first canto, and then 10th canto is the lotus face of the Lord. That is the classification of the cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. So what first canto is telling us here, because now this particular verse we are going to discuss about the expansions of the Lord. And as Srila Prabhupada gives the details in the purports about the expansions, his plenary expansion. The first is Shankarshan, who is Balramji, then his son Pradyumna, and then his grandson Aniruddha. And all of them are actual none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, with different reasons for having the loving exchanges, and we will come to that discussion. So in the first canto, what comes prominently is actually the qualification to surrender to the lotus feet of the Lord. And we can see the qualification of various personalities here. Romaharsha Sutta, he did not pay obeisances to Lord Balram, and not surrendering to the spiritual master. He received the punishment for that. Balramji just killed him. That killing him is actually killing his, not only just the material body, but removing the anarthas from the jivatma. That is the actual crux we should understand from it. So then comes the qualification of Sutta Goswami. And throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, if we see the language Sutta Goswami uses or for his prayers, for his description and everything, it's very, very soft, very gentle, very humble, very mild language. For example, he is extending his prayers in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 13th chapter. Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutas Tunmanti Divyestavair Vedet Sangapada Kramo Upanishader Gayantiyam Samagaha Dhanavasthita Tadgatena Manasa Paschantiyam Yogino Yasyantam Navidu Sura Asurgana Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Very, very beautiful prayer, and the language of this prayer is so beautiful, so much of devotion, so much of a love, so much of complete surrender he has in this. When he's what does that prayer means? He's offering his respects, his prayer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Who is that Supreme Personality of Godhead? And then he's saying, Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutas, Maruta Rudra Varuna Brahma. Everyone is offering to you or their respects, their prayers to you. Rudra Marutas, Tunmanti Divya Istave. They're Divya Prarthana they are offering to you, to O Supreme Lord. Vedek Sangha Padakramo Upanishade Gayantiyam Samataha. So all the 4 Vedas are also singing the glories of you, O Supreme Lord. Vedek Sangapada Kramo Upanishade. All the Veda, Upanishada, Vedanga, every single Vedic literature is offering their prayers to the Supreme Lord Krishna. Dhyana Vasthitatat Gatena Manasa Pashyantiyam Yogino. Those who are meditating on the Paramatma feature of the Lord, Dhyana Avasthita Gatena Manasa at their mental platform as well. Indirectly, they are actually worshipping you. They are offering their prayers to you. Yastyantam na vidu sura asuragana devaya tasmai namaha. And to that Supreme Personal, to that God, to whom who is offering the prayers, Yastyantam na vidu sura asuragana. All the elevated sages, Sura, demigods, Asura, Rakshas, Gana means we human beings. Everyone is offering prayers to that personality. I offer my respectful obeisances. That is Sudha Goswami's prayer, so his mood of complete surrender. Then comes the qualification of Shukadeva Goswami, complete avadhuta, always is immersed eternally, perpetually in the bhakti ras. So that is Shukadeva Goswami. He's the Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. He's the Kirtan, the personification of that mood of how to perform Kirtan. Maharaj Parikshit, Shravanam, how the perfect listener, that is the qualification of Maharaj Parikshit. And all other sages who are actually asking questions, discussing about the Lord. We can see what is the qualification of Narad Muni, what is the qualification of Yudhishthir Maharaj, what is the qualification of Kunti. And that is the devotee, that is the benchmark is getting set in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So here, Yudhishthir Maharaj he doesn't want to know that the Lord has gone back to his Swadham, to his abode. So that's why he's asking all the questions, but he's not asking the question whether Lord has left this planet or not. And this includes the qualification of speaker and the hearer. So who is asking the questions here? Yudhishthir Maharaj. And who is listening to this question? Who is the receiver of these questions? Who is supposed to answer is Arjuna. Their love for the Lord and their relationship, that's what it is coming here at the front for all of us. The qualities of the book are also described in the first canto. What is Srimad Bhagavatam? What it is giving us, the Prema Kumartha Mahan, what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to Srinath Chakravarti Thakur in a Chaitanya Mathamanjusha, Aradhya Bhagwan Brajesha Tanayastadhama Vrindavan. In that verse, the qualification or the description of Bhagavatam it is giving us the Prema Kumartha Mahan, the experience of the ultimate love is described in Srimad Bhagavatam. And that's what Mahaprabhu, the Lord himself is saying. So obviously, what is coming here, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? What are his expansions? What is his paraphernalia? What is his entourage? And the qualification of the person who can understand the message from this book. Once I asked in some time back, around 18 years back, I asked a question to His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj that Maharaj, I get confused about the chronology in Srimad Bhagavatam. And I was driving and Maharaj was sitting on the the next seat. And Maharaj looked at me and he said, what do you mean by chronology? Bhagavatam is a life science. Bhagavatam is giving us the highest mellow any human being can even think of. And you're talking about chronology? Anything given in Bhagavatam, unless and until we come to that point of understanding the Samadhi Bhashya of Shukadeva Goswami, we will never understand what is chronology. We are just thinking in a linear terms of how the time progresses. Shukadeva Goswami is there in the pastimes of the Lord eternally, and wherever he is, he just keeps talking about the pastimes of the Lord. So it may be in this universe, maybe another universe, maybe somewhere else, and that's what this Bhagavatam 18,000 verses are. Earlier, we can see through the pastimes of the Lord that he is a Bhakta Vatsala. So we saw in case of Parikshit Maharaj, how he saves him, and why Mother Uttara, she helplessly says, "O Lord, O Govinda, please, now you are the only shelter." And that time, Lord enters in the womb of Mother Uttara and he saves Parikshit Maharaj. We have gone through that all past time earlier. So she took the shelter of the Lord. What this first canto is telling us is the qualifications again, that who can take the shelter of the Lord, and whether the person is man, woman, animal, anybody, throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, that's what we can see, that the mood of surrender, the mood of that loving exchange. And how the chapter 13, 14, and 15 is devotees' reciprocation towards the Lord. Earlier, we have seen in how Kunti Devi reciprocated in her prayers. But in this particular part, Yudhishthir Maharaj is an example of how he reciprocates. And because of this, even we have seen earlier that because of the Lord's plan, or if Lord decides something, no one can change it. Means nothing in this entire manifestation can change the plan of the Lord. If he wants to do something, it will happen. But only one person, or only not one person, only the devotee can change the plan of the Lord. He wanted to go back to Dwarka, and then Kunti Devi said, "Please stay." Yudhishthira Maharaj stay, and Lord stayed for quite some time again. He is the Bhakta Vatsala, and that's the main prominent point which is coming here. How that is related to this particular Vishnu Tattva and his expansions, we will come to that. So love of his devotees, Ajita Jitosaha, conquered by the love of his devotees, and that's what the Lord is. If we see the pastime when Bhishma Dev wanted, he started fighting after the Arjun went to Bhishma Dev and he got those 5 arrows which were made for 5 Pandavas, and then Bhishma Dev made a vow that I will fight at the best, at the peak of my skills. And that time Arjun was practically helpless because he was attacked by his grandfather. Obviously, we can see the different dimensions of that. The love between the grandfather and the grandson Arjun is exceptional. If we read Bhishmadev's prayers, um, in throughout all his prayers, what he refers is to Yudhishthir and to all his prayers. There is a reference of Arjun everywhere in his prayers. So Bhishmadev had a desire that because he was a warrior and he wanted to see the Lord in that mood of chivalry, of that Lord being the warrior. And for that, Lord broke his own promise and he took the weapon, the wheel of the chariot, and he was about to attack Bhishmadev. And we know the rest of the story. So he breaks his own promises, he changes his own plan. It was a desire of his devotees, and that makes him change his own plans and his own and break his own promises. Why he does that? Because he's a Bhaktavatsala. That's the reciprocation between him and his devotees. And this Yudhishthir Maharaj is asking the question, that is his reciprocation. How is everybody there? How is Lord? How is his expansions? How is the family members? How earlier he says, how is Agrasen and everyone else? Loving exchange is the most important aspect of bhakti. And for that, devotees are ready to come out of their comfort zone and give everything. When it comes to that higher level of pure devotional service, we have seen the trials, tribulations, and ordeals devotees go through in Srimad Bhagavatam and in other literatures. He says in the 9th canto, so we'll go to that 9th canto, that my devotees are the dearmost to me, and anyone who is dear to them is also dear to me. What is that principle? Gopir Bhartur Padakamalayo, Das, 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 Dasanudas, servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of a devotee, of gopis. So the same principle Lord gives, what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Aradhya Daivat Gaurang Mahaprabhu, what he has given us. That's the same principle is there in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And so it is easy to please the devotees. So let's go to that 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam and let's see. So what when Durvas Muni, when Sudarshan, when he offended Ambarish Maharaj, and then Lord's the supreme weapon, the Sudarshan Chakra, it killed the demons created by Durvas Muni. The demon created by Durvas Muni, it was just burned to ashes, and then the Sudarshan Chakra started following Durvas Muni. And that time Durvas Muni was running around everywhere. He went to Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and finally he went to take the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that time, what Lord says, that's what this verse is. Sri Bhagwan Vacha, Aham Bhakta Paradhino, Yas Swatantra Ivadvija, Sadhubhir Grasta Rudhayo, Bhaktair Bhakta Janapriyaha. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead said to Brahmana, I am completely under the control of my devotees. Indeed, I am not at all independent, because my devotees are completely devoid of material desires. I sit only within the cores of their hearts. What to speak of my devotee? Even those who are devotees of my devotee are very dear to me. So the principle we were talking about, Gopir Bhartur Padakamalayor, Das, 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 Das. It's a brilliant purport, and I think in the today's context, we should read that. Who would like to read this purport? Because we are basically discussing the purpose of human life, the objective of human life, what we should be doing, and then what's the result. Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana we are going to discuss today. So this purport is very, very relevant in that perspective. Who would like to read that? Any volunteers? Or,
I can read Prabhuji if you want.
yes,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All the great stalwart personalities in the universe, including Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, are fully under control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead is fully under the control of his devotee. Why is this? Because the devotee is Anyabhilashita Shunya. In other words, he has no material desires in his heart. His only desire is to think always of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and how to serve him best. Because of this transcendental qualification, the Supreme Lord is extremely favorable to the devotees. Indeed, not only the devotees, but also the devotees of the devotees. Srila Narottama Dasa Thakura says, Chadiya Vaishnava Seva, Nishtara Payeche Keva. Without being a devotee of a devotee, one cannot be released from material entanglement. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu identified himself as Gopi Bhattuhu Pada Kamalayor Dasha Dasanudasa. Thus, he instructed us to become not directly servants of Krishna, but servants of the servant of Krishna. Devotees like Brahma, Narada, Vyasadeva, Shukadeva, Goswami are directly servants of Krishna. And one who becomes a servant of Narada, Vyasadeva, and Shukadeva, like the 6 Goswamis, is still more devoted. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura therefore says, Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasada. If one very sincerely serves the spiritual master, Krishna certainly becomes favorable to such a devotee. Following the instructions of a devotee is more valuable than following the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
So if we go to, again, come back to this purport, Vishnu Tattva. So when we are serving the Lord and his expansions, so that means we should have the instruction, or what's the takeaway from this particular purport is, wherever we see the expansion of the Lord or his devotees, we should be, one thing is, our heart should be filled with gratitude that we are associating with his paraphernalia, with his devotees. And the verse comes to our mind is Param Brahma Param Dhama Pavitram Paramam Bhava Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam Majapyo. So that personality, who is the Supreme Lord, and his expansions, his abode is also the Supreme Parama, the topmost. Pavitram Paramam Bhava. And that is the Supreme Divinity, Paramam Bhavan, and he holds all the opulences. We'll come to that chapter from the Bhagavad Gita, 10th chapter, little later. But Purusham Shashvatam Divyam. So him and all his plenary expansions are Shashvat, are eternal. Shankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and his immediate expansion is Vasudev. All are eternal, and their expansions, including the Paramatma feature of the Lord, the deities we worship in the temple, and um, his, his pure devotees. Everyone is worshipable because pleasing them is the basic principle, what just Mataji read in the purport. So if we go to the next verse from the 9th chapter, from the 9th canto, 4th chapter, Naham atmanamashase mad bhaktehi sadhubhir vina Shriyam chakyan tiki brahman yesham gatiraham ra. O best of the Brahmanas, without saintly persons for whom I am the only destination, I am not desire, I do not desire to enjoy my transcendental bliss and my supreme opulences. So what Lord is saying is, without devotees, my heart is void. And that's the verse which will come little later. We'll go to that verse. So these are all the very beautiful purports. If time permits, we will discuss these purports, but let's go to the next verse. Ye daragar trapta pranan vitta vittam imam param vitvamam sharanam yataha katham tansta tumutsahe. Since pure devotees give up their homes, wives, children, relatives, riches, and even their lives simply to serve me without any desire for material improvement in this life or in the next, how can I give up such devotees at any time? Our acharyas give a very beautiful explanation of this. Giving up homes, wife, children, relatives, riches, everything, that means not just a dry renunciation, but with the family, with the riches, with everything, making sure that we are going to use everything, all our resources and our families and everyone for the service of and that's the background of this. Excuse me, I think I'm getting a phone call. Yeah, I hope I'm audible here.
Yes, you are. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Okay, yeah. So that's what the meaning of this particular explanation, or the what it means in terms of giving up everything we have, because everything belongs to him. Sometimes people ask that everything we have is given to us by the Lord for our quote unquote enjoyment, or for our day-to-day livelihood. But the point is, if we know the purpose of our life is Anyabhilashita Shunyam, then everything is meant for the service of the Lord Himself, and that's the background behind. Srila Shivram Maharaj has written a very beautiful book on the verse Adhurudaya Mayam about this pastime. I have read it twice, and I wish I can keep reading it again and again. But it's a very beautiful book. I would definitely suggest to read that. Mai nirbadha hridayaha sadhavaha samadarshanaha vashikurvanti mam bhaktya satstriyaha satpatim yatha. A chaste woman bring their gentle husbands under control by service. The pure devotees were equal to everyone and completely attached to me in the core of the heart, bring me under their full control. Lord is using the analogy of how a chaste wife bring her gentle husband under her control by service, by love. And that's the analogy Lord is using here. And then comes the very famous verse, not this one, I think the next one will come. Mat sevaya pratitam te salokya dita dicha tushtayam nichanti sevaya purnaha kutonyat kalaviplutam. My devotees who are always satisfied to be engaged in my loving service are not interested even in the four principles of liberation: Salokya, Sarupya, Samipya, and Sarishti. Although these are automatically achieved by their service, what then is to be said of such perishable happiness as elevation to the higher planetary systems? Here again, we can see that the commentary or the explanation given in the form of verses by Srila Rupa Goswami is confirmed by the Lord himself. In Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami talks about the 64 limbs of devotion, how to perform bhakti, and then what is the objective. He talks about the Sambandha, Videya, and Prayojan. And that's what particularly Lord is himself is confirming here. So what we understand from this scriptural studies is the objective is corroborated by his pure devotees, which is stated by the Lord himself in the Holy Scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita. And that's where the verse, which is very important for us to meditate on. What that verse is, Shrunvatam Sukatha Krishna, Punyashravana Kirtanat, Vidyantasthoya Abhadrani, Vidunoti Sarutsatam. Whether it is about Krishna, Shrunvatam, Swakatha Krishna, or which is said by the Lord directly himself, like Bhagavad Gita. And about Krishna is Srimad Bhagavatam. Punyashravana Kirtana. And that's the ultimate pious activity we should do in our life. Listening, chanting, and discussing the Krishna Katha. Ridyantasthoya abhadrani. Rid means our heart. And whatever that abhadra, which is unwanted or the contamination is there in our heart, that will get washed away. Vidhunoti sarutsatam. And what will remain is the pure heart. And then comes the famous words, Nashta Prayasho Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Let's come to the next verse. I think otherwise we will miss some other discussions. So this is the famous verse what Srila Shivrama Maharaj has written the book about. It gives the background of what we have discussed and the later verses as well. Sadho Rudayam Mayam, Sadhunam Rudayam Tvaham, Madanyate na jananti, Naham te bhyomanagapi. The pure devotee is always within the core of my heart, and I am always in the heart of my pure devotee. My devotees do not know anything else but me, and I do not know anything else but them. It's an amazing purport. Srila Prabhupada has given a very concentrated nectar, we can say, in this purport. So here, Srila Prabhupada has given the important verse. Teshamevan kumpartham ahamadnyanajam tamaha nashayamyatma bhavastu dhyanadeepena bhasvata. Out of compassion for them, I dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge and darkness born of ignorance. The devotee does not do anything not sanctioned by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As it is said, Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Vidneha Na Bhuyeya. Even the most learned or experienced person cannot understand the movements of Vaishnava, pure devotee. No one therefore should criticize the pure Vaishnava. The Vaishnava knows his own business. Whatever he does is precisely right because he's always guided by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In today's verse, Yudhishthira Maharaj is just curious. We can see his meditation constant on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How is everybody? How is the Lord? So he's just constantly thinking, he's meditating on the Supreme Lord. So this is basically a viraharas, or we can say vipralamba bhav. that Lord, even if in a physical sense, Lord has gone back to his Swadhama, to his gone back to Vaikuntha, to Goloka. But at the same time, Yudhishthir Maharaj is constantly associating with the Lord in a union in separation. And that's what this verse is telling us. So if we go to interesting part of what all of us meditate on, is the verse Srila Prabhupada was mentioning from the 10th chapter. And this is the 10th chapter. That's the 11th verse we just talked about. And then we talked about this particular verse as well. Param Brahma Param Dhamma Pavitram Param. And who confirms is Asit, Asito Devalo Vyasa. And that's the next verse. Arjun is saying here, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality. And obviously, his expansions and what is the reasoning behind his expansions. So then Arjun is requesting, is praying to the Lord, please tell me in detail of your divine opulences by which you pervade all these worlds. And then Lord starts telling about who he is and his expansions, his plenary expansion, and everything comes here. And here he says, I am the super soul. We talked about that verse, the prayer by Srila Suta Goswami. Before that, Dhyana avasthita tadgatena manasa pashyantiyam yogi. And here Lord is saying, I am the super soul, O Arjuna, seated in the hearts of living entities. I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of all beings. And then he says, of the Adityas, I am Vishnu. Of lights, I am the radiant sun. And of the Maruts, I am Marichi. And among the stars, I am the moon. So all the opulences, all the grandeur of everything is actually created and given to the Jivatmas by the Lord. And that is why those personalities, Yam Brahma, Varunendra, Rudra, Marut, and this is Marut here. Among the stars and the moon, and that is Chandradev. They are all worshipping the Lord himself. They are all praying to the Lord himself. Varunendra, Indra, here it is, the king of heaven. Rudra Marutas. And then he came here. Of all the Rudras, I am Lord Shiva. Of the Yakshas and Rakshasas, I am the Lord of the wealth Kubera. And that is the Yasyandamna Vidusura, Asura Gana Devaya Tasmai Namaha. And that's what Lord is confirming here. So again, we are coming to the point that his expansion, himself, all the powers, all his opulences are worshipped by the great personalities. And as Lord himself says in the Bhagavad Gita, that anything great, all the leaders or the great personalities do, the common man follows. So in this particular context, if the great devotees, if the great personalities are worshipping the Supreme Lord, and if they are relishing that relationship, that bliss, so that means it's a confirmation for all the devotees, all of us, that what we are following and the path we are following is the correct one. And that's the conclusion we can easily draw from this particular 13th, 14th, and 15th chapter, how devotees are reciprocating with the Lord's love, his Bhaktavatsala. Purpose of the Vedic literature is to know the three things: who I am, who is God, and what is my relationship with him. Mamaivansho jivaloke jivabhutaha sanatana manashasthani indriyani prakriti karshani. Everyone is part and parcel of me. That's what Lord says in Mamaivansho jivaloke. And that's the answer which is given in the Bhagavad Gita. Sambandha Jnana, which is the first part. And then who is that personality who is qualified to give us this knowledge? is our Acharya, are our spiritual masters. And here in this case, we are the followers of Srila Prabhupada, of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the supreme devotee of the Lord, who is the Lord himself. That's what we are following. And here in the rest of the 10th chapter, we can see that what are the Lord's opulences, what are all his expansions. Of the trees, I am the banyan tree. Banyan tree is Ashwatth. In Sanskrit, it is called as, or what. And of the sages, among the demigods, I am Narad Muni. So the opulences of the Narada, the grandeur, the great personality Narada is empowered by him. And we have seen so many, we had discussions about how surrendered Sripad Narad Muni is. We are from the same sampradaya. He's a Manas Putra of Lord Brahma, and our sampradaya is Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Vaishnava sampradaya. So following the footsteps of Narad Muni is our should be our objective as well. Of the Gandharvas, I am Chitragat, and I am the perfected being. I am the sage Kapila. So what opulences of the Lord? What is this Vibhuti Yoga? The 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita is telling us that all of us are always attracted towards the opulences, whether any of the 6 opulences. The most powerful opulence is actually the virakti, renunciation. When you have everything and still you are renounced from it, that is the most powerful opulence, the most attractive opulence. Actually. So here Lord is telling about all his opulences, what he is, how his devotees are, what his relations are, and the reasons for all these opulences, all his expansions, is to have that sweet, loving relationship. And that will give us the bliss and the ultimate objective of being eternally happy. So that's what I thought of discussing in this particular context of this verse. Let's see what this verse is. Okay. So this is one of the verses I thought of. It's also relevant to what we are discussing today. Vidhuya tadameyatma Bhagavan dharmangu vibhuhu vishato dasamasasya tatrairvan tardhate tardhe harihi. Sorry, my tongue is a bit funny. While this being observed by the child, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the super soul of everyone and the protector of the righteous, who stretches in all directions and who is unlimited by time and space, disappeared at once. So that's about when Parikshit Maharaj started searching for the Lord. So what that means is, once we realize and understand the presence, his opulences and his expansions everywhere, we will always be looking, searching for the Lord like Parikshit Maharaj. And we should, and that hankering, we should always have that in our mind. That, where is the Lord? How I can find him? In what way? And for that, the 10th chapter is an excellent meditation, because whatever we see around, if we keep following, if we keep reading the 10th chapter, we can easily relate everything around us to the Supreme Personality of God, to his lotus feet. And that's the important part of the 10th chapter. And that's where Lord is giving the Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita in the 10th chapter. We can see that how beautifully Bhagavad Gita composition is. Arjun is asking perfect questions. Lord is giving the perfect answers. There is a perfect composition. Everything is absolute perfection in Bhagavad Gita. The Chatushloki Gita, the whole context of the reasoning behind giving Bhagavad Gita is in these 4 verses, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then Lord is talking about his opulences. How we can relate everything in our life with the Lord himself. And that is the whole reason behind all his expansions, his parshad, we call it as, plenary expansions, his direct expansions, and all his Shakti, Alladini Shakti, pleasure potency, Sandhini, Samvit, and Ladini, the 3 potencies of the Lord. So that's, I think, I have spoken enough. We will stop here. If there are any questions or comments or any additions, please feel free. Please unmute yourself and we can discuss that. No questions and no.
Hare Krishna, Prayagraj Prabhu. Thank you so
Hare
much
Krishna,
for your
Mataji.
wonderful, wonderful class always, because you are so knowledgeable in your scripture, and the way you explain everything and taking everything from Bhagavad Gita, connecting Bhagavad Gita to Bhagavatam. Actually, this is all about the relation between God and Krishna and his devotee. The whole Bhagavad Gita is like that, and you have elaborated so nicely to make our connection, because Srila Prabhupada has given us all this knowledge for us to understand and make that wonderful relationship with Krishna. So a lot to take, to digest for me, and because I'm very, very fallen. And
No.
but it's so nice to hear, because it's really purify the heart. More you hear, more goes through the ear in our heart, and it's really very elevating.
So
And
I'm just repeating what these great personalities have told us, our acharyas, and currently Shivram Maharaj, Radhanath Maharaj, Bhaktivinoda Maharaj, is just a copy paste. So I can't take any credit for anything actually. it's just, it's very easy to repeat. Means what has been told to us.
that's good too, because without understanding we cannot repeat. It's very difficult to repeat without understanding. So we got to have some understanding, deep understanding, to give a class on this. So we are very grateful, and thank you, really, thank you very much for your wonderful class. Yeah, it's all the relation between the Lord and his devotee, and how we can progress by knowing this knowledge, how we can purify ourselves through the scripture, and that's the essence of hearing and reading the scripture. So you really tried very, very wonderfully well, and thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for your blessings, Mataji. It's
Thank you.
always encouraging. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are
Hare
there any other comments or questions? Thank you, Palika Mataji. If not, then we will stop here. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo anantakoti vaishnavvrinda.
Hare
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you for the wonderful
Thank you
class.
very much. Beautiful.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you.
Prabhuji, for a very nice class.
Thank you, Mataji.
Prabhuji, for the nice class.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.